if you're truly passionate about something, any small things that get in your way, you're gonna be like, okay, let me try to figure out a different way to approach this. Let me figure out another path. Maybe this doesn't work. Okay, trial and error. It's just constantly failing until you kind of understand what works and what doesn't work.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
Like, she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Talented comedian, an actor, Nav Rezvani. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. Man, you were hilarious. You're very talented, as I mentioned before. I'm personally such a fan of impressions, and that's your style of comedy. That's something you excel in, as seen on your Instagram page. So congrats to yourself on killing a lot of impressions. Bro. Yeah.
Thank you. It means a lot.
Of course. And so you and I had the pleasure of meeting you at Nima Naz's tailgate event sponsored by Rivalry. You again showcased a lot of celebrity impressions that day, just to kind of get the audience riled up, kind of get the audience involved. A lot of memories that day. And it was a quite an entertaining event, to say the least.
For sure. No, it was great meeting you as well.
Thank you.
That event was really fun. Obviously I've known Nima for, probably about 9-10 months. And he got me on board and I got to meet a lot of creative people like yourself. So it was a good time, man. It was great meeting you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, honestly, that's why I love attending those events, but also being associated with people like Nima, right? It's access to different people like yourself, always being associated in that creative bubble. And before the podcast as well, I was telling you why I created the podcast, right? Is to network with individuals instead of it just being a hi and bye, we should chat for a coffee one day. It's like, no, let's sit down, have an hour discussion, explore our journey. Maybe we can provide some insight for ourselves and also the audience, right? So really happy you're participating in this. It means a lot.
No, thank you for having me, man. I enjoy these kind of things, so.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, you got the whole setup going on, right?
There you go. I had to come in profesh,
Yeah, it's not his first rodeo, I got the guitar casually in the background. I got it. All the jackets lined up, color categorized. Yeah.
Unintentional, but it's all good. We'll play along with it.
Door's gonna swing open at one point with a celebrity cameo.
Imagine.
No, I love it, man. Throughout our interaction that day, learned a lot about your creative intuitions as a comedian and your mindset developed in becoming a content creator. How did you develop an interest in comedy, and why did you decide to pursue a career as a content creator?
Great question. I think I've always personally just enjoyed comedy, particularly when I was growing up. Stand-up comedy, I just really enjoyed. Like one of the first stand-up comedians that I remember watching was Russell Peters. Shout out to Russell Peters, Canadian legend. Yeah. I remember sitting in the living room with my family. We were just like laughing at his jokes, like 'cause it just was so relatable. Because personally, I grew up in Toronto, a multicultural area, so I've been surrounded by all sorts of different people, cultures, and so I feel like that kind of like played into my interest in comedy as well. Because watching people like Russell Peters go on stage, coming from Canada as well, it was kind of inspirational, seeing like him kind of blossom into the huge comedian that he is now.
Yeah.
Someone that I kind of looked up to. And so ever since then, I kind of been into that. And then, ever since social media started picking up and stuff, I looked up to the OG like YouTube creators, like, the Nika Hikas of the world, and so, from there, I've always kind of been interested in that. And personally, I've always just like making people laugh and entertaining people, even if it's like chilling with my, friends, we're in a group. And so I kind of want to find a way to do that on a bigger scale. And so I thought, social media is a great platform. It's not like back in the day, where you had to really go out there and put your put your name on the line and, showcase what you really got.
Sure.
Now it's just like literally picking up the phone and, just record. That's it. Right.
Yeah,
So
of course.
I just always found that really interesting. And so, that's how I really kind of started getting into it. And luckily, with consistency, some got to like, the place where I'm at now, and I still got a long way to go. But yeah, that's kind of been my journey.
No, for
Um,
sure, man. And like, you've been proving yourself day in and day out, right? Like with the following, impressive following you've had on social media, and you see it in the work, right? Like you're putting yourself out there, and I think that's all that you can ask for. Most people can't
sure.
even take that step, right? Like you're showing up, you're doing the work, you're doing all that you can. But that's really cool, man. And I'm glad that you have heroes in your life like Russell Peters. You're right. It's like you see a guy like that, for me in film, people that like Drake and like Justin Bieber, like even those
Yeah.
guys, like just knowing that they're from Toronto, you know what I mean? Like putting Toronto on the map. I was in LA the other day and like just mentioning their names and like the fact that people from Los Angeles knew what Toronto was all about, believe it or not. And like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
put them on the map. Like I know it's surreal to think that, but I swear like 20 years ago, like Toronto, I don't think it was as sexy as they say as it is now.
No, man, for sure. Like Drake literally made Toronto what it is now. Like everyone, if you had asked them like back in 2005, like, yo, what's Toronto? Where is Toronto? They would have had no idea. But now it's like, oh shit, the six. Like, they know what's good right now. So it's great to see like creatives like really coming out from Toronto and like not afraid to like actually say they're from Toronto. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's kind of like this is something you can brag about. Like I made it and stuff.
Yeah,
And like
100%. And as a,
yeah,
a creative or a content creator, whatever have you, like it'll also make you proud to showcase Toronto, right? Like
100%.
to when you do make it or as you progress in your career, you're proudly say, like you said, like I'm from Toronto, or like you want to show, like I try to do that with my films, right? Like I shoot in Toronto and I always try to
Yeah,
capture the CN Tower or like get the landscapes in there because I want to be seen as that director that kind of like champions Toronto as much as I also champion my original roots, which is Vaughan, right? Because I was born in
yeah,
Toronto, right? And I grew up in Vaughan. So it's kind of like two places at the same time.
for
But
sure.
nevertheless, yeah, like glad we're on the same page about that. Now, going back to like, you said your family, you shared that bond with them about like laughing with Russell Peters comedy. Did they support you? Did your friends, people closest to you support you when you decided to pursue content creation as a comedian and making impressions and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like I don't really see it that way. I see it more like they're just like, yeah, do whatever you want. If like you want to do it, like go for it. So I think for me it was just like I didn't really necessarily need the support. It was
Okay.
more so like I had to find like it within myself. Okay, if I really enjoy this myself, I honestly shouldn't care what other people such as my friends or family think, because if I really think I can make it and go after it, let me do it and prove to them that it's possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And once like that I started thinking that way, then like obviously the support will come, and like your friends obviously will support your videos and like watching stuff. But yeah, I remember back in the day, like I would just like spam like my YouTube videos and stuff to like my friend groups. I'm like, yo, go like this video, go show support. And I'm sure
100%.
some of them were just like, yeah, I'll check it out, another one of Nav's videos back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But now they're really seeing like, wow, okay, like with consistency, like I've gotten to a certain place where I've made a little bit of a name for myself. So obviously a lot of people that I've grew up with are proud of that, including my family. But I think that yeah, they were supportive for sure. But I wouldn't say that I really needed that in order to kind of like do what I'm doing right now, which
Yeah.
is kind of like
Oh, that makes sense.
good, because that's how I got here, like just believing in myself, really.
Well, I'm really happy you said that. And the reason why I ask this question with a lot of creatives is because I'm always curious if they do get that support. Because as much as you say, you don't need that support, sometimes depending on how close you are with family or friends or the people you can count on most, it is a little bit discouraging or heartbreaking if you constantly get the pestering of what are you doing with your life? You know what I mean? Why are you
For sure.
pursuing this?
No,
Right?
100%.
Like sometimes a little bit of love can go a long way. But I love how you worded that is, you have to have the conviction in yourself first in order to get this far before you can get the support from anyone else. Right. Because that's what I tell people all the time. It's like the only reason why I keep actively pursuing my passion to be a director is believing in myself, believing I'm crazy enough to actually do it. That's where it stems from. It doesn't stem from someone saying, you know what, I think you have the look, I think you have the attitude, I think you
Yeah.
have the talent. It's no, I see myself first doing that. And then through my actions of constantly putting stuff out there, that's when you start to receive the feedback or the recognition that you're on the right path, right?
Exactly. And it's not to say that it wasn't a struggle because, you know, obviously, at the same time, your family does want you to succeed. And so like you know, especially immigrant parents, you know, they want you to go do your education,
100%.
get your master's, PhD, all
Yeah.
that good stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, there is that other side where it's kind of like, oh shit, you know, like, should I go down that path and play it safe or should I go down this path? So it was kind of a back and forth over the years, but luckily I you know, I just put my head down and really just went after it because eventually at the end of the day, when you're looking back and you're 40, you're 45, and you're
Yeah.
like, if, you know, if I didn't try, I'm gonna have the biggest regrets. But if I try and fail, then you know, at least I could say that I did try, right? So yeah, it wasn't easy, but for sure. You know,
That's my
luckily
mantra my whole life, man. Like in terms, no, I love that you said that because
yeah.
there were a lot of times, especially when I was like younger, where I was just always trying to look for that recognition, you know, from my parents in the sense of like, should I go after this, you know? And you know, immigrant parents, it's like, no, focus on school, get a job. You know,
Trust me.
you're not gonna survive, whatever. And it's
Yeah.
not so much they never believed in like me per se, I should say. It's just they're such modest, humble people that
Yeah.
they never really imagine when you know a child coming to them saying, "I want to be the next Tarantino," you know, actually envisioning that, right? Like, no, think about it. Like that's pretty
Yeah, for
grand, even
sure.
for myself, right? And in some respects, it's audacious to say unless it's proven, right? So it's like I can understand where they're coming from. I think that empathy comes through maturity as I get older.
Yeah.
But again, like man, you know this like firsthand. You got to have that conviction and that bravado in a sense because no one else is going to believe in you unless you believe in yourself first. So I highly respect what you said. It's like if you don't put your
1,000%, man.
footstep, put your own first step
That's really
forward,
all it
no
is.
one's
Yeah.
gonna do it. Yeah, yeah. So that's great, man. And back to the regret thing as well. Like that's my mantra. What I was referring to is like the idea that one day I could look back. You know, I use my parents and I use also older individuals in my life, like elderly people, and they're bitter about everything, you know, like other things in their life, you know. And not to say like they shouldn't be, but I look at that and I say, if you're bitter about things and you live like, you know, a so-called safe and, you know, happy life because you worked, you did all the checkpoints, you know, you got a house, you got a job, whatever. It's like, then why are you upset? Why are you complaining about everything else? It's like, what it is that no matter how you put it in life, there's always going to be things you're stressed about. The question is, are you happy? Right.
For sure.
And it's like, that's where you and I kind of like understand each other. If we go after our own journey and our own path, as long as we can look back with a smile on our face saying, hey, you know what? No one could speak and say, you should have done this, should have done that. It's like, I tried it all. And even though I failed, I know in my heart I did it. What could you say for yourself?
Exactly.
Because most people don't even take that step forward, man. Let's be honest. I know a lot of people I run into, and I'm sure you as well in your career, that it's like, yo, I always wanted to get into comedy, you know, I always wanted to try that. And it's
It's
like,
because
well,
it's a strike to the ego, you know, like you like
100%.
people have that hesitation. It's like, oh, like if I put my like 100% into it and it doesn't work out, then it's like you feel like you're kind of worthless. But that's not true. You know? Maybe that path is just isn't meant for you. So
Exactly.
but like you'll never know unless you actually just really give it 100%. So I
Yeah.
agree.
And you have to like, I think what it really comes down to are the people that I've been following that are successful is they love the craft more than they love being, you know, that more than the ego, you know,
Yeah.
more than the adulation. Because that's what it really comes down to. Like as much as like I get older and I start thinking of like all the possibilities as the thing blows up and like where I'll be and you know the fortune maybe can help my family. I always strip that all down whenever I'm feeling like down and out or anxiety, whatever, like whatever have you, or discouraged. And I remember like when I was a little boy and I just cared about you know being responsible for making movies, you know, or being in that position because that really comes what it comes down to, right? When you're
Yeah.
5, 6 years old, you're not thinking of all the shit I just said. You know what I
No,
mean? You're
no,
not
no,
thinking of
no.
like a fancy house, cars, you know, respect from your peers. You're just thinking like, no, I want to be able to create every day. I want to be, you know, a kid at heart. Um, so I love that. Yeah, I love that we share that the same attitude.
Yeah, no, man.
Awesome. So, having said that about passions and you know pursuing dreams and things like that, I want to know from you though, like what keeps you passionate about comedy, even when the obstacles to success can sometimes feel discouraging.
That's a good question. Because there's a lot of ups and downs with comedy and in content creation.
Mhm.
and mainly downs. I'm not gonna lie, dude. So I think the number one thing is there's actually two things, to be honest, with this. I think number one is passion. I know we've kind of touched on that before, and
Right.
mindset. That's number two.
Yeah.
So obviously, like with something like this, like you have to have the passion because um if you don't, obviously, like you're gonna quit easily because one hard thing, you're just gonna be like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm gonna try something else. But if you're truly passionate about something, any small things that get in your way, you're gonna be like, okay, let me try to figure out a different way to approach this. Let me figure out another path. Maybe this doesn't work. Okay, trial and error. It's just constantly failing until you kind of understand what works and what doesn't work, right? Um, I've had so many failures, like in when I started making content on YouTube and on TikTok. And there's a lot of like Gary Vee says, like eating shit, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to eat a lot of shit in order to even get anywhere. So, but so that's where the passion comes in, because if you really don't have the passion, you're not willing to take that, like eat shit basically.
Yeah. No, 100%.
So I think that's number one. So I feel like that's kind of like that's what made me continue on what I'm doing. And number two is having the mindset of not being outcome oriented. You know what I mean? A lot of people are hyper focused on attaining certain numbers or like achieving certain goals within certain time frames and all that stuff. And that's not to say that all those things aren't great, but if you're constantly focused on just that, then you're gonna really just stress yourself out and burn yourself before you even are able to even achieve those things. So I think those two things are very key when pursuing anything, not even just comedy, right? It's just a great mindset to have when approaching anything. So that's what really drives me and makes me want to continue doing what I'm doing, because I anticipate the lows and then I appreciate the highs, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's really key when dealing with like making videos and content, because you just got to have that realization and be conscious that that's going to exist. So yeah.
No, 100%. Well said, man. And like I ask these things, for my curiosity, for the
Yeah.
audience's insight, but also to see where your mind's at. Like I'm curious as to know, like how you would approach a situation like that when you are discouraged. Do you and I share similar methods?
Yeah.
For me, like I really love the idea that you said, like taking a different approach to the whole metrics of numbers, like metrics to success, or like how you value your succeeding in the business, let's say through views or likes and things like that. I struggle with that only because as I get older, I start to think, should I be at a certain point? But I also like reassess it, and hear me out when I say this. It's like every art form is different. If you understand what I'm saying, like
Yeah.
comedy is an instantaneous reaction. If you know what I mean, like you post something out, like an impression or a skit,
Yeah.
things like that, like it's designed to get that response eventually. What I'm saying, like I'm in film, right? And to make a short film requires like a lot of time. And as much as I put out frequent short films, like in this last year, I did like 5. It's just not to the scale of like, let's say a skit every day, right? So that consistency is not present. However, filmmaking as well, like to be a director, also takes time in developing your craft and your style and your audience, right? And not to say that's not for comedy. I just want to try to make a point here for the audience is we can't judge where we're at if we're judging other creators, and they're coming from different industries. Like if I'm competing with yourself, for instance, it's like, why aren't my short films getting 50,000 views, and that impression of Drake is killing it? You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. You got to understand that, because like I even had the same thing when I used to make like YouTube videos, like I would be spending like 6 to 8 hours like editing one video,
Right.
and then it would get like maybe 50 views, and I would just like be like, what am I doing? Like I'm like, like, is this really worth it? Like I'm putting all this work and I'm only achieving this. But you just got to understand that's just the market nowadays, right? Like, so if like you have to play it with how the market is going. So it's don't hate the game, join it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. But would you
it's
say
kind of
back to that, like when you were doing those videos 6 to 8 hours? Because I'm like experiencing that too. Like these podcast reels, like I'm trying to cut up the podcast and
yeah,
showcase it, and I'll get that right. Like I'll spend days like on, you know, 1 minute reels that only get like a couple hundred views on TikTok as opposed to like blowing up or whatever. But would you say it's a matter of consistency, right? In seeing that?
oh yeah, 100%. I think with consistency is key with like attaining any success.
Yeah.
And with other forms of like content, such as like like you make short films and stuff, and you mentioned that it's like it's kind of like a struggle to get an audience to be interested in what you're doing. So it's going back to like, all right, what is the market interested in? Or right now, let's say a lot of people have short attention spans. They're on TikTok. Can only watch something for 15, 20 seconds. Hey, why don't I maybe like take my short films, clip it up, and post it a little like a 15, 20-second snippet
Yep.
onto my TikTok, and then bring that audience over to YouTube. So it's all about figuring like the strategy. I think of it as a game, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's say I want to even grow my own YouTube. It's like, all right, why don't I focus on more on like growing this TikTok and then transition my TikTok audience over to YouTube where I can, showcase my longer form videos,
Yeah.
and then, build even a bigger audience over there, and a newer audience too. So yeah.
No, I like that idea of treating it like a game. And that's what it is, right? It's like problem solving. That with the whole podcast, when I initially started, I just put up an hour-long video
Yeah.
for like a few months. And then I realized, and my buddy, actually, credit to him, Christian Alphonse, he put in a piece of advice and said, listen, man, you should cut it up into clips. And then I cut it up into clips so I can keep up with my YouTube, right? Just constantly be putting out things on YouTube. But I also took one step further and I realized, with the whole popularity, the rise of reels and YouTube shorts and TikTok, like you said, because I said to
Yeah.
myself, I'm like, what can I do on like TikTok? You know what I mean? I'm not an actor. I don't really like being on the camera unless I'm like talking like
Yeah.
like this conversation here. I'm not going to put on a show. And I said, no, why don't I just cut up like the inspirational talks, like the one we're having right now, put a bunch of captions, make them inviting, make them elaborate. And there you go. Like that's my page, right? Like I could bring people, like you said, the audience over to eventually YouTube or Instagram, and then they could see, oh, that's why he talks about film so much. He's a filmmaker. He uses the
Yeah.
podcast as a platform, right? So I like your idea, man. Like it's great to see it from different angles. I think it all comes down to perspective, right?
Yeah, 100%. And just trying new things, right? Like,
Yeah.
for example, like even with me, like, I was making my TikToks, and then I was like, okay, how do I grow my Instagram now? Because you know what I mean? Like that's another avenue where I can advertise myself and, brand myself. And, how can I do it in a way where I don't have to exert that much more energy and time into it? And I'm just like, why don't I just re-upload my TikToks onto Instagram? It doesn't require any other work. You literally just download it, remove the watermark, repost on there. And next thing you know, within like 6 to 8 months, gain like maybe 20,000 just off re-uploading my TikTok. So it's like going back to the whole thing. It's like you just got to figure out different ways and strategies to maximize your growth. And it's all a learning thing, right? Like not everyone knows exactly what to do all the time. It's like you gotta just try new things and see what works and what sticks and what doesn't. So it's great that you've done that, and obviously people like listening to your podcast and get to know you on a more personal level. And once people get to know you on a more personal level, they're going to be more interested in your craft.
Of course.
So it's a great way to bring in new fans for sure.
Well, the whole idea, thank you for that compliment. The whole idea of the podcast, is to show a different side of me, right? Like, because I don't want to just be the director, like a guy in the shadows. I wanted to
Yeah.
I explain this a lot. I don't know if I had this conversation with you. It's like, I wanted to be like a celebrity director, like someone you actually know and can like is accessible, right? But the idea is like, if we were to do a project, let's say you're my lead actor or supporting actor or even a gaffer, I would bring
Yeah.
you on my podcast. And you would like leading up to the movie, you would get to know like the people I brought on in the industry, and you would get more of an accessible point of understanding like what goes on in a production, what's involved, who he associates with, right? So you create that brand, and like you said, you are able to provide that personal touch. And I've kind of like witnessed the fruits of that, like just in my community, like people saying, I love your podcast. It was very inspiring, like about mental health or about this art form or whatever have you, right? But I also honestly do it more for the audience, to kind of like gain an insight.
Yeah.
from this conversation, because you just having this conversation with you, like I know there's a lot of fans that if they see this, they'll say, wow, Nav, like, this is how he handles an obstacle, right? Or this is how he problem solves. Like, that's very interesting to see. That was kind of my whole notion. That's why I brought Nima Naz on. That's why I brought a lot of, public figures on, is to show a different side of the creator, right? Because so much we get caught up in the image and we forget like there's a human being behind it.
100%. And everyone has their own process and their own journey and how they achieve things, So it's great to kind of hear different perspectives of how one person gets to where they want to go versus another person. So I think it's very interesting as a listener to kind of hear that as well, So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
No,
great.
I'm happy that we agree that this business is unformulaic. That's something that I got to remind myself, because
Yeah.
think about it, man. Like, you could literally post something like Gary Vee says tomorrow and your life can change. And it's been proven time and again, right? So we don't really know. All we can do is problem solve, adapt, and be consistent.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can never decide what the market wants, right? Like
Exactly.
you just got to put it out there.
Exactly.
That's all there is.
Well, speaking of the market, which pertains to social media,
Yeah.
it's become very advantageous and a powerful tool in elevating the careers of several comedians and content creators like yourself and Neiman has. How has social media benefited you as a comedian?
Ooh, good question. I think the number one thing I feel like that it's benefited me, I would say is just confidence. That's not to say I didn't have the confidence before, but it's always great to know that what you're doing is you're getting positive feedback from,
Right.
right? And it's kind of a tricky thing because you shouldn't be too reliant on feedback. You should always, have, that consciousness of your own of knowing that, your content is good and you should continue posting it. But receiving positive feedback or even constructive criticism really helps you as a creator because you understand, what works, what doesn't, playing onto your strengths, and just building your confidence overall over time. So yeah, that's the number one thing I would say is just bringing your confidence level up.
Yeah, I like that you were just so honest about that, to be honest, like just
Yeah.
transparent. Because it's true. Like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I know it's kind of pretentious to be like, oh, I want recognition, but like, we're in this for the audience.
Yeah,
We're in this to
exactly.
receive something. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why I didn't take up a trade. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't go into electrical or plumbing or anything like that. It's like I did this because it's like telling a joke, right? Which is something you can understand.
Yeah.
It's funny to tell it to one person. Imagine telling it to 1,000 people or 10,000 people, right? So the more, the better. And that recognition goes a long way. And I like what you said. It's the confidence, right? It's like when you first started, it was like, I bet you probably like not trash, but not to the level that it is now, right? Like for me, I always like had that conviction, like I can keep if I just keep going, keep doing this. But like you said, you keep eating shit. And then now you have that confidence that it's like, I have something special. I just have to like now refine it. I have to now adapt. I have to now position it for the market in a way that is plausible. So I think it all comes down to that for sure, man. I really understand that because confidence is so key, especially in what we do, or else we'll burn out and die.
100%, man.
Yeah.
You gotta have that. You can't be afraid because like
Yeah.
once you start becoming afraid, then you're gonna start, doubting yourself. People say, imposter syndrome, right? Like you kind of start thinking, like, wait, do I really deserve this? Am I really good, or was it just a fluke that I got here?
Right.
But you just gotta constantly remind yourself, like, no, you've got here for a reason. People like you for a reason, and just keep going. Like, it's not to say like what you're doing, like, is perfect. No one's perfect, right? And when you keep at it, just do everything you do with confidence.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to just put anything out there. You're gonna constantly just improve and get better and better and better. And eventually you're gonna get to where you want to be. So
Awesome. Love that. So I want to get back to now the collaborations, right? I've seen you
Sure.
frequently collaborate with Nima Naz. How have these collaborations with the local comedians in promoting your social media presence as a content creator, like how effective were they in doing that for you?
They're really good. I'll be honest, like, I haven't done too many collaborations.
Right.
I've done a couple. Obviously, the most notable one would be with Nima Naz. You know, we've met up a couple times, and I think
Yeah.
we just had that chemistry. You know, we're both around the same age, both, you know, Persian. You know,
Yeah.
both doing you know, celebrity impressions and whatnot. So I think we just found that connection between the two of us, and we just work really well together. So I think it's also great because, you know, it's nice to have um, friends who do what you do. You know what I mean, in the
Exactly.
social media space, because um, you know, there's times where, you know, I may have a question about uh TikTok or Instagram. Maybe it could be technical or it could be not technical. Regardless, if you have those people that are in that space with you, it's a great way to kind of, you know, connect with them and, you know, let them know like, oh, you know, let's say you're down about like, this month's been pretty bad. Like, you have any recommendations? You know, what should I do? Like,
Yeah.
and stuff
We've
like
been
that.
there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's always good to have those people to be like, you know, remind you that, you know, just got to keep going. Because your personal friends, you know, they might not understand the intricacies that, you know, are involved in content creation, because it's a very new and unique kind of path that not everyone takes, because, you know, it's not a traditional path, you know, go to college, you know, get
It's
your job.
unconventional, man.
It's not conventional, right?
It's
So
unconventional, and like yeah, it even like probably drives us crazy too, right? In a way, because sometimes we're like, what do we, like you said, I love that you were mentioning how you're editing a 16-hour video and you're like, what am I doing?
yeah,
Because that actually happens to me more
100%.
often than none. And oh man, when you said it, it just hit a nerve, because I'm like, that was literally me like the other day. I was like, what the hell am I doing? But you know, it's for a greater cause. I think that's, I don't know how to it's like when you're trying to, when you read all these inspirational articles, you come across that one where it's like only you know your passion, or you know your vision for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, I finally understand what that means. It's like you can explain it to death, talk blue in the face to anyone, but only you know why you're doing the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And only you
100%.
know how much work you're putting in, because it's so easy to just show your success, show all your adulation, all that stuff, but only you know how like tough it was to get to that point and how much effort it requires. Yeah, that's something that I try to tell myself. Like when I do those podcast reels, for instance, like even though they take a shit ton of time, sometimes like a full day for me, I'm proud of myself in a way, because I'm learning to like change the style, like you said, to adapt to the market. Like I'm noticing like the yellow text and the punchy zoom ins and outs, and like the emojis, like those are what's doing well. Like music as well. So it's like, if I have the conviction, if I have the awareness to like change and adapt to the market, then I know I'm doing something for the better of my content. But also I want to do it because I want to win, you know, like I want to really get my podcast out there, because I believe it can provide value to a lot of people's lives. And it resonates with my vision for my production company, you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
100%. And you do those things because, you know, like, although you said like it takes a lot of hours, a lot of, you know, time, energy, all that stuff,
Right.
you enjoy the process. You know, if you're not enjoying the process, then it just isn't for you. Because, you know, a lot of people say, and it's very true to say, like, you quit a 9 to 5 to work a 24/7. Like, it, you know, the proof
Yo,
is in it.
that
We're
hit.
constantly
This guy's
working, you know
dropping
what I mean?
truth bombs today.
Yo, it's true, man. Like, I
That's
swear to
exactly
God,
what
like,
happened to me the other day. You know, it's like 9 to 5 out the window. You know what I mean?
because, like, if you're not like doing the technical stuff, you're constantly thinking of ideas in your head. Like, I'll be
Yeah.
in bed at like 1 a.m. sometimes. I'm just like thinking of, okay, what's the next video? What am I gonna do next? What am I
Bro,
gonna
I
do
can't
next?
even go to bed. I haven't had a good night's sleep since like 2020. You know what I mean?
It's
Like
so
it's
true,
crazy.
man. Like, your mind just is constantly working and working and working, because you just enjoy it. Like, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, obviously, like, the work that you put in, like, it's strenuous, and like, you get tired, but like, it's like, you know, that, you know, this is fun. Like, this is what you really want to do. So
I love that. Yeah.
it's like a lot. It's part of your life now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I try to
Yeah.
discipline myself to get a good night's sleep. I go to bed, but like I just wanted, like I have a to-do list, right? And it's like I have
Yeah.
to finish these videos by the end of the day. So if it takes me until midnight, whether because I should mention, where it's not like we're doing it straight, life gets in the way. There's things to
Yeah.
do, visits, family, friends, whatever.
Exactly.
if it takes till midnight or past that, like sometimes you just gotta like run through it. And people think again, you're crazy because it's like, why am I doing this video that might just get 50 views? It's like, I'm doing it because I want to be consistent. I believe in what I'm putting out in the content.
Yeah.
And I just, everything is incremental, right? Like it's not instantaneous. Like you see something blow up. Like 2 years ago, I started the podcast. It was with headphones and it was on my little like Mac laptop. Camera quality was shit. And I was on my couch. But then fast forward that, it's like, obviously I'm not to the production value I envisioned, but I have enhanced the microphone. I've made an intro for this podcast, and you kind of got to see that, the bigger picture. And I'm sure you could say the same for yourself, right? Like how far you've come with content creation.
100%, man. It's all a growing process, and you just like I said before, just enjoy the process and just keep building, keep growing, because the more you do that, like your success will be inevitable. Because nope, like like that's pretty much it, honestly.
Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work or something like that, right?
Exactly. You gotta have the work ethic for sure.
Work hard, fails to work hard. Yeah. So love that we have the same mindset, and we just got to keep going, keep consistent. So I want to get back to, speaking of your content, and speaking of like putting yourself out there, as I've discussed before. So you specialize, you excel in these celebrity impressions. And I was showing actually my uncle the other day, because he was visiting me on my birthday, and his family. That's how much I love your impressions, because I'm serious, man. Like DiCaprio, and I should mention like the amount of work you put into writing the dialogue. Like Leo with his girlfriend, and like they're getting younger and younger. Like I got tickets to Disney World. Like that was like they were on the floor. Like it's not so much the accuracy, but it's also, like I said, the effort put into like writing a believable scene, right? That could happen on an exaggerated level, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, so you got Drake, you got Leonardo DiCaprio, Conor McGregor. Probably those are my favorite. Andrew Tate, amazed that you could even do that, because it's an like you can make an impression out of him, but that's hard, man. Like it's very subtle. And
he's got a very unique voice.
Yeah, you nail it. So I want to know, man, like making these impressions, because I've tried for the life of me and I don't succeed. What is the creative process in achieving the most accurate impression? Like, how do you get to that point?
I would say here, I think Jay Farrow, who's one of like, someone that I looked up to like with impressions.
Yes, a legend.
SNL GOAT, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he said it really said it the best, and I do agree with it. Where he's like, if you ever want to get a voice of someone down, start with their laugh, because if you can figure out how they laugh, it helps you like build the momentum of like how they start to talk, like going in and out of the laugh, and like, putting in some words in, and then mixing that in with like a lot of catchphrases that they say like a lot, like, Drake with the G's Louise, like, say those words and stuff that are unique to the person that you're impersonating over and over again, mix it in with the laugh. And then eventually, like with repetition, like, it'll come to you. And another thing is like, I just like watch shit ton of videos, man. Like I just,
awesome. So you absorb like the subject you're impersonating.
Have to absorb, because, it's not just making yourself sound like them. It's, figuring out like the small little things of like the way their mouth moves, the way, their eyebrows fluctuate up and down, or like, if they have a weird, if like, not a weird, like a unique, like a mannerism. Basically like a mannerism. And all those things, if you watch more and more clips, you start observing the way that these people like carry themselves and the way they speak. I think that's like the most important thing. Man,
like you're absolutely right. And as a viewer, you pick it up. You actually like don't even realize it, because again, like you see Drake, you see Leo, and like for example with Drake, it's like I didn't even realize like he laughs at his own jokes, or like he laughs at his own. And it's like, again, like a great impressionist like yourself, you're not mimicking him, you're becoming him. Like that's what he does. And so when I watched you, I was like, it wasn't like, why is he laughing at himself? It was a reminder like, oh shit, that's right. Like, that's such great observation. Like he does, like he talks and he's like, and he says like stupid jokes about women. Like, and Leo like purses his lips and like has this like stern look to him, and like talks as if like he's not opening his mouth fully. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's amazing that you like pick up those like little things. Conor
It's funny,
McGregor.
you know,
Yeah.
everyone like when like I read the comments like
Yeah.
and everyone has a certain thing that they notice in the video,
Of
and
course, of
it's
course.
it's cool. It's like, oh, yo, he even got this right. Yo, he even got like the laugh right. He even
Yeah,
got
yeah,
like the
yeah.
mouth movement right. Like, so it's cool that everyone has a different like perspective on how they see it, and all of those different perspectives build the actual impression. So it's really
Exactly.
cool reading those as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was just thinking, like even with Drake, like you'll be talking and then it'll be like, not seriously. Like he goes from like joking to serious. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And he acknowledges it. And he's like, not seriously, but things are coming out, man. Like I can't do the impression, but it's like, yo, I could see him at a party. Like, and you know what's crazy? It's like even if you just watch his music videos
Yeah.
and you don't like see him in an interview, because that's the thing. I barely see him in interviews, but for some reason I just know his persona, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
envision like him being like that if I were to meet him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you even see it in, like you said, like mannerisms, like the Instagram videos, right? You see how it is like TMZ or just like these random like Six Buds videos
Oh
of him
yeah,
just
for
like
sure.
on a boat or something. Like there's no audio, but the way he moves and like you said, like you could tell he's like talking
Body
like that.
language, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's always distracted, like looking around, you
Yeah.
know.
Scratching the beard.
Yeah, scratching the beard, whatever. Yeah, like Jessie Reyes, like he just met her. Did you see that video floating around? Like they met each other at like a launch party or something. I don't know, some album cover, and it was just like funny. Like everyone in the comments was just like laughing because they were just imagining like what the conversation was about. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah, man, that's awesome. So, any of these celebrities by any chance I mentioned reach out or got some notice?
Um yeah, well I think of course one that sticks out right now is the Nelk boys, I've done a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
Nelk impressions, so a good amount of the people from Nelk, they started following me and
Wait, the team
you
or
know
like the Nelk boys themselves?
yeah, so like Kyle, for example, I know
Yeah,
Lucas, Steiny, we got Gabe, all of them have been
that's awesome,
supporting
man.
and liking the videos.
Oh, okay,
So it's
cool.
great, because like it's always funny because like when you do an impression of someone, you never know what their reaction would be like. He's like, oh, are they
Yeah,
gonna feel offended, like, or are they
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
enjoy it?
yeah.
Because like what the mindset that I go into impressions is like I do impressions of people that I enjoy watching or just enjoy in general. So when I do them, it's more out of admiration than like trying to diss them or anything, right?
Exactly,
So
man. Exactly.
it's great to have that recognition, So like the Nelk, I know I've had Gideon reach out before.
Who's this?
Gideon,
Oh,
he's
okay, okay.
a
Awesome,
YouTuber. He's
awesome.
a
But
dope
not
man.
Drake, eh? Too cool.
Drake not yet, man.
Not
We'll
yet,
see.
not yet.
I
That's what I
think
gotta see.
Drake is a very strategic man. Maybe he's seen it,
Bro,
maybe
that's
he
such an
hasn't.
yeah, that's such an accurate impression, man. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, I've heard him. I'm serious. Like, he better fucking reach out. You know what I mean? And he will. He
That'd
will.
be dope.
It would be dope. Like, see, if I was these celebrities, man, like, and I saw such an impression like that floating around, I'd fucking post it to my story and be like, "Yo, this is jokes." You know what I mean? Like, how funny is that? Forget the celebrity lookalikes, but yeah, you like you said, he's a very strategic man.
Yeah, because I
Um,
remember like for example, I know Neo was telling me with the whole Gary Vee thing, he's like, oh, let me see how these guys do for like a year and a half and how consistent they are and like their work ethic and whatnot. And then I'll like reach out,
and he's
So
blatant about that, Gary Vee. Like
yeah,
he
exactly.
says, when I look at your stuff, I don't like I could be looking at your page and you don't even know it. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that, these people haven't seen it or don't know. I'm sure maybe to an extent, he has or people from his team have. But for me, it doesn't really matter right now. I'm just, gonna keep posting it, and eventually, if people reach out and they, show love, then that's great. If not, I'm gonna keep doing my thing,
Yeah, 100%, man. You don't need
Yeah.
that recognition. We just got to tell you it's doing well. But I'm telling you, man,
Appreciate you, bro.
you just keep the consistency, and he will eventually see it, or someone from the team will reach out because it's just so accurate. And another thing too, right? Like I was telling Nima, uh, being someone from Toronto, right? He's so in love with the city and in tune with
Yeah.
what's going on, right? Like with Nav, the rapper.
Yeah. I got confused
He
with
knew.
that too.
I'm sure he's aware. Like even Chromaz. I don't know if people still talk about that female rapper. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
That woman.
yeah, Chromaz. I know the rapper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Right. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, there was a picture of them once. Like he knows the city, he knows what's going on. So eventually,
sure.
like you keep going, blow up, you go viral, whatever. He'll definitely see it. But yeah, it always helps to know like I get that recognition. Like, yo, I saw this video, it was dope, right? But
Yeah.
in time. Then what would be hilarious is if you meet him and you just start talking like him.
Honestly, I don't
Wouldn't that
even
be
know if I would have the
hilarious,
balls to do that.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
That would just be like two Drakes in one room. Like, I don't even know how that would even go.
No, you mimic everything he's saying. Like, bro, why are you saying that? You're like, yo, why are you saying that?
That'd be a
Just
good
like,
video idea, honestly. I'm not thinking
Right?
about it. Two Drakes.
There you go. Two Drakes and like, yo, honestly, you
Drake
better stop
Drake.
making fun of me. And then he laughs at himself, but then he gets serious, but he's like trying to like laugh at the same time.
And they both laugh at the same time.
Haha, no, I'm fucking serious, bro. Like, you better stop. Like, they can't help but like laugh at their own like shit as they're saying it. Like they're trying to be tough, but they can't. Yeah, that's joke.
That's hilarious.
Have you ever tried like I'm curious if I had to ask, prank calling like people with this? Like that's a cool video.
I know a
man.
lot of people say
Content.
that. I haven't. No.
Yo, prank call chicks with fucking Drake's voice. I'm serious.
I should, dude. Honestly,
Yo, that's
or
great
people have
content,
said like
man.
go into a COD lobby or like and
Bro.
just like ripping like accents and like
Yo,
impersonation.
promise me that's coming. Bro, think about that, man. Like everyone pranks calls, right? Everyone I can't make it. It's like they just say a bunch of bullshit, but you actually have these celebrities that are so-called calling them. And it's like you're gonna get those what? And then some people might actually scream. Like, I don't know. I feel like it'll go viral, man. That shit. That'll be amazing. Or like they said, the COD lobby.
Yeah. No, for sure. I definitely got to do that. I don't know why I haven't so far.
Bro, like I'm like, yo, why isn't this guy like messing around, with an ex or some shit? Like,
That's
you know what I mean? Kill it, man. Kill it. No, I'm serious, man. I'm holding that against you, man. I better see that within the next year. Because that's gold content. Holy shit, bro. Especially the cat, bro. Like
next pizza delivery,
Yeah, man.
Drake's pulling through.
Killing it. All right. So we're putting that in the books. I love it. You heard it first on the Corner Talks podcast. All right. So yeah, just to wrap it up, I want to know, like, how did you decide on like how do you decide on your next impression?
I think it honestly, like, it's very random. And it also depends on like what's going on in the world, with comedy or making as a content creator in general, you just got to be aware of trends, popular stuff that's going on, celebrity rumors, even like
Right.
for example, the DiCaprio thing. Like the only reason I started that impression is because that whole 25 years old and younger dating trend thing
kept
going
going.
on, right?
Yeah.
So or even like back when like Pete Davidson was like with Kim Kardashian, that's when I started the Pete Davidson one. So I think that's kind of where I decide like what new impression I want to do, because especially like with TikTok nowadays, everyone wants to see something that's popping now.
Yeah.
So like obviously I can do maybe like an impression of Trump, but right now Trump isn't really in the spotlight. He's not really out there.
You got to listen to the market, right? He's not trending.
The market and just pick and see what people want to do, and also just reading the comments. I get a lot of comments, people saying like, oh, you got to try this, you got to try that, you got to try that. And so I take note of those things, and I read all those comments, and I'm just like, oh shit, okay, let me watch this guy's videos, let me check this thing out. And give people what they want to see, because at the end of the day, I'm making videos for other people, right? So if they want to see a certain impression, and if I can, if I think I have the capability of doing it, I'm gonna give it a shot.
100%.
So I think that's the kind of approach I take. Yeah, it's not really like, it's not like, oh, I have this person next up or that person next up like on the list. It could vary just depending on how things go and what people
It could
wanna
either
see.
be organically or what's trending in the market, or where you might like your own inspiration kind of draws from, right? Like you might
Exactly.
be, like you said, like let's say for Drake, right? Like he's always trending in a sense, right? Like everyone's always talking about him,
100%.
but you might be an avid fan or you really enjoy his music. It's like, yo, I want to impersonate my hero, Like,
Exactly.
yeah. So I got you, man. And just circling back to Russell Peters and how like this all started, like inspiration, him being a stand-up comedian. You're not a stand-up comedian yourself, or do you see yourself becoming one in the future, like branching off from what you're doing now?
For sure, that's definitely something I want to dabble into in the future. Maybe not immediately. I kind of want to put my focus and attention on social media and growing myself on there, because I just know as a fan of stand-up comedy how much work it really does take.
Oh yeah.
And it would just be a disservice if I were just to go out there and just do one gig here and then one gig 6 months from now. And like, I just know that's not how you're gonna, be successful in stand-up comedy. Because as a like stand-up comic, like, the true test is when you're faced like with an audience that doesn't know you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really
Obviously,
smart.
like if I were
Yeah.
to throw an event with a bunch of people who are supporters of me, even if my jokes suck, they're gonna laugh or they're gonna enjoy me because they enjoy me as a person, right?
Yeah.
So I think definitely in the future that's something I definitely want to get into. Maybe not immediately, but for sure. And then of course, continuing this whole TikTok thing with the comedy impressions, and even going into longer form videos with YouTube.
Yep.
I back then I used to make reaction videos and commentary style videos. So I kind of want to get back into that, and kind of like the Cody Coes of the world or the Joe Santagatos of the world, and do that as well, and just expand in general, not just try new things. You know.
Well, you
So
got the
yeah.
arsenal for it, right? Like all those celebrity impressions. I'm just thinking of a bunch of things you could do, like those reaction videos, the prank calls, podcasts. Just projecting that character and like how they would react to a question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even me, man. Like I
Exactly.
could I could be like your straight man, like just like talking to you, like, so Leo, like, why are you dating these girls that are like 21? And then you could be, kind of
Oh,
like what you do already with Nima, right? You rift off each
yeah.
other.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I'm really excited what you do next with these impressions. You got a lot of talent. And yeah, man, I'm just really looking forward to the things you're going to be putting out.
No, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, thank you for the kind words. And likewise with you as well, Um, we're all in this together, This is
Yeah,
something new to everyone. And, just keep going at it, have the work ethic and enjoy the process. And eventually you're gonna make it, So I really
100%.
enjoyed it, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Nav, coming on the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we'll talk soon.